host, Erin Mayer, and I am so excited for this week's episode because I get to have on a special guest, Alex Flores, who, if you search for him right now, you're not going to find this character anywhere. But I found him in the middle of the roads in Chicago, downtown, getting ready for the marathon. And he is such an amazing human. We had such a great chat and connection. Him and my husband hit it off. And I was like, you know what? He has to be on the show to share his running story. So Alex does not have social yet, but who knows? Maybe this podcast will encourage him to. Alex, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I
Now,
like
this is like your first podcast, right? Like your first anything.
very first one. Very first one.
Oh my goodness, this is
This is my,
exciting.
I will be honest, this is my first podcast for running. I've been on I work in the craft beer industry, so I've been on many a podcast for craft beer, but this will be my first time talking about something outside of my profession.
That's awesome. And we will
Yeah,
definitely
feels
get
good.
into that because I love chatting about beer and all different things. So Alex, as I said to the listeners, I met you in Chicago. So you're a runner. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your running story and how you got started running?
Yeah, I'd love to. Running is such a weird thing. So I grew up swimming and playing tennis in high school. Swimming was my main sport. Loved it. I always laughed at the cross country kids that would, whenever they were injured, they would come swim with us, and they hated swimming, mostly because you can't breathe as much as you can on land. And swimming was so easy for me, and I never wanted to run. I did, you run in PE and things like that, but running never really. I don't know, it just never did appeal to me. It just was never something that looked fun. Um, but yeah, and then as I got older, I actually after college moved to California and moved to San Diego. It's beautiful every day, and I felt like I needed to take advantage of being outside because it's 72 degrees, no humidity, palm trees swaying. So it's like I should be running. So I would do like a few miles here and there. Probably would never get over like 10 miles a week, but it was just something to blow off some stress and just enjoy, go by the beach and run on the boardwalk. So I kind of fell in love running there. And then I moved back home to New Orleans and I just kept running. And I signed up for a couple 5Ks, and that was, I don't know. And then I was like, I should do something harder and try a half marathon. And then I got the sickness from there, really. And now it's all downhill. And
You
then I
caught the
met you
bug.
at the Chicago Marathon many years later.
You caught the bug. It's like that. Well, I guess I'll do a 5K. And then, well, if I can do a 5K, I can do a 10K. Well, if I can do a 10K, I can do a half. And it's like, I
Right.
think every runner goes through that rabbit hole, right? Of
It
like
is,
that
yeah.
like path.
Well, it was in New Orleans has a big event called the Crescent City Classic. It's always Easter weekend, and it's a 10K. Runs from uptown, or really downtown New Orleans, and then it runs through the city, and then up to mid city, up in the city park, and it's everyone comes out, all like people on along the course, and it's really fun. And so I did a 10K, and then yeah, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna try the rock and roll half marathon in New Orleans, and um, I'll never forget. My wife will also never let me forget, but I got through the finish line and she was like, "How was it?" And I'm like, "I am never running that again. That was awful. I don't want to do anything." And then about a month later, I signed up to be a charity runner for Chicago, um, and I ended up running Chicago Marathon. And then after that, it's just been a wild ride. But yeah, it was. She'll never let me forget that I was gonna quit after my first half marathon, and we flew to Berlin last year to do the Berlin Marathon. So it's just funny. Like one minute I'm saying I'm never gonna run, and then several years later we're flying halfway across the world to go run a marathon, which is
Oh my
yeah,
goodness. All right.
quite
So
funny. So
let me ask you, with New Orleans, I would fathom, I would think the races are pretty wild in the city. Yes, no. Like I know in Chicago, and I can't tell you the exact mileage, but it was the second half of the race. Maybe it was a frat house on the left side of the road.
mhm.
There was like 30 guys outside, and I saw a reel of people doing keg stands there in that one
I
spot.
Yep.
And I wonder if New Orleans is kind of like that.
It is. So the rock and roll marathon and half marathon were really fun because you run through uptown. So you run along St. Charles Avenue and you run past the colleges. So there are always people out there handing out beers and shots and things like that. The Crescent City Classic. is very funny because these people tailgate all morning. They're handing out shots, they're handing out beers, they're handing out beignets. So it does get pretty chaotic. There's a very famous at the 5.5 mile mark. There's this one group of guys. They're old. They're probably in their 60s now. They hand out Jello shots, so it's like the Jello shot spot. So yeah, it gets pretty chaotic out there, but it's all it's all fun. It's very very New Orleansy. There's people that walk in the back that just pull wagons full of beer with like a radio. So people just come out just to basically tailgate it and have fun and walk the entire thing. And there's people that race it, but the whole course is just it looks like a Mardi Gras parade basically.
So have you ever drank during a parade, like had beer and stuff? I can't fathom doing that. I picture I'd
Well,
like,
during a parade,
I
yes.
mean,
During
during
a
a,
race,
no, 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 during the race. Sorry. I'm
no.
picturing Mardi Gras
I
parade
know.
and getting all
Parades, I know.
like
It's all blurry. Yep.
visualizing all this stuff. Um, so have you drank during running before?
I have I so so I have drank a beer before during the Crescent City Classic. Um it was a terrible idea because the carbonation just killed me. It just like burping and feeling nauseous, but I wasn't like racing it, but still not fun to like have a belly full of carbon dioxide bouncing around. Um, Last year or 2 years ago, I was running the Louisiana Marathon in Baton Rouge, and I thought it was pickle juice, and it was actually pickle vodka. So that was at mile like 15. So that was terrible. Was not expecting that because I all I saw was pickle, and I'm like, oh, pickle juice sounds good. So I went to go hit that, and it was a pickle vodka. So that was disgusting, but I mean, I finished the race and it was fine. But yeah, that took me by surprise. But not recommended. Pickle juice, yes. Pickle vodka, no.
Absolutely
So
not.
yeah.
So, all right, I want to take it back to when you were younger. You mentioned
Mhm.
swimming. What was your favorite event when you did swimming?
My favorite event was I was very good at the 50 and 100 freestyle, but my favorite event was probably the 200 medley or the
Mhm.
100 back. I liked both of those. I'd probably go 100 back. That was I don't know why. I wasn't the best at the 100 back of all my disciplines, but that was just my favorite. I don't know why. It just was a fun race to swim. Um,
So now here's my dumbed down question because I didn't swim competitively at all. I used to ice skate, and that was like the big thing that I did. But my dad was really smart, and I was a stupid teenager and didn't understand. So I would complain. But he would take me to our local Y to swim laps to help me build my endurance and strength. So I would sit there for like an hour swimming back and forth, back. And my dad would be like, "Keep going." And I'd be like, "I just want to go home. I don't want to do this." But, anyways, when I would swim the backstroke, not that it was at all nice or pretty whatsoever, I can remember just looking at the ceiling thinking, I don't want to hit my head
yeah.
against the wall. So, is there a strategy to that? Like, did you just know, like, time wise, like, oh, I'm coming to the wall, or did you like look at flags or like something in the ceiling? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so most pools have like a proper pool would have a line on the ceiling, so you can actually see it. So like when you're swimming, freestyle, there's a line at the bottom of the pool. Generally in a pool, there's a line at the top. Some pools don't have it, but most pools do. And then the flag you would count. I was always like an 8 count to get or an 8 stroke to get to the wall. So you kind of learn a little bit of your bearings in terms of like where the flags are and then the line on the ceiling. When there isn't, yeah, you're just hitting the lane ropes if you're not if you're not paying attention, or you swim with your head kind of cocked to the side. But yeah, I guess you do it enough and it just becomes second nature. But yeah, I definitely rely on a lot of lines on the ceiling or yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of turning my head. But yeah, I don't blame you for being wary of the
Yeah,
of
no,
the lane
I
ropes.
just I just was like, it was always cutting it close with my head. Now, here's my next question. Have you ever done or thought about doing like a triathlon? Like, okay, better yet, do you still swim? Do you still swim regularly?
I do. I haven't swum as much as I would like to, but right now, like I told you, I'm dealing with the stress fracture of the ankle. So I've been swimming more, and I realize like how much I actually miss it and how it's been good for me. I feel really good doing it. So I feel like I need it. This is like a good wake up call to mix it back into my routine. I just run and play tennis, but I do mostly running. So then I'm just dedicate my time to doing that. But I do need to mix in swimming like once a week, just even if it's for 30 minutes, just something else. But I do miss it, and it's so much fun. It's so good for you too, and it's nice just to be in the water and not have like any distractions and like nothing in your ears. You're just swimming. So it's been a really good like meditation piece, I think, that I miss because I remember spending like hours and hours in the pool as a kid and in high school, and now I don't do it at all. And when I got back in, I was like, oh, I like missed this like the quietness of the pool. But um yeah, but it's been really good. But I have done a few sprint triathlons um a few years ago. I haven't done them in a while, but I absolutely hate riding a bicycle. Um so I'll do everything. I'll train for every other part except for a bicycle. So it's been hard. I've gotten people asking me to do, you should do an Ironman or you should do a half Ironman, but I just really hate riding a bicycle and I really don't want to train for that, but maybe one day.
So isn't with those races you usually end with running? Like, isn't it like swim, bike, and run, or does it not matter? Like every race
No,
is
yeah, it's swim, bike, run. So
yeah.
yeah, so you can swim and then yeah, then you do your bike. The sprints are good because most of the bikes are only 20 to 30 miles sometimes. So it's you can do that. That's pretty like you can do anything for a little bit. So it's not too bad, but yeah, I just really hate riding a bike. I really try. I don't know, it's so boring to me. I'd rather run 100 miles than bike 100 miles. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just where my brain
No, no,
goes.
no. Everybody
Yeah.
has their thing, right? That we
Yeah.
all like feel more called to do. Um, so not knowing where you are in New Orleans, I'm just curious if you've ever done open water swim,
I
like in the
have.
ocean.
In the ocean, yeah, I've swam. So when I lived in San Diego, I would swim in the ocean. I actually trained for a swim run a few years ago, and we were going to swim in Casco Bay up in Maine.
Mhm.
So we went out there a few days early, and we swam out there. It's terrifying. I was listening to, you'll have to remind me of her name, but she lives in California and swims in the ocean now.
Allie.
Allie,
Yes.
and yeah, it's frightening. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It takes a long time to get comfortable with it. Um, it's funny. We ended up not doing the Casco Bay race swim run because they sent out a message at like 3 in the morning saying that they saw a shark sighting on the course. And this whole thing is you swim from swim from island to island in right off the bay of Portland, Maine. And when you get on the island, you run across the island, then you get back in the water and you swim to the next island. Um, but there was a shark on like one of the main passes, and I know a lot of people dropped out. And then, funny enough, me and my buddy that were going to do it both had found out we were pregnant, but hadn't told anyone yet because we were still at like the 9 week.
Uh,
So I went to go tell my wife, and she's like, "You're not swimming." He also went to go tell his wife about the shark. She said, "You're not swimming." So we came back out and didn't tell each other why we chose not to swim, but we were like, "Yeah, we'll just chalk it up to the shark." But it was funny.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then our kids were born on the same day, so it was kind of funny.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
funny little
that.
story. But yeah, I didn't get to swim in the open water as much as I would have liked. But I did have to come to the terms with that there is marine life out there and it will
Yeah.
kill you.
There
But
is there is
uh,
there is animals out there. So I'm peeking on my phone really quickly because I was like, you know what? I gotta see if you've seen this movie. Um, it's on
Jaws.
Netflix. It's a swimming movie that just came out. Young Woman in the Sea. Did you ever see
Is it?
that?
No, I was thinking of the Last Breath one.
I didn't see that one.
Okay, that's
I
but
didn't
she's
see that
she's
one.
the deep diver. Yeah.
So Young Woman in the Sea is based on the true story of the first female who ever swam across the oh, what is it? Now I'm totally botching this.
Wait, is she the one that swam to Cuba? Is
She
that not that one?
so she swam in France. Hold on, I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
The story of the competitive swimmer, Gertrude, 1926, the English Channel. That's what
Oh
she
wow.
was the first woman to swim across the English Channel.
Okay, I'll have to
Um,
watch that.
and so that's really good. But anyways, in the movie, there's a scene where she attempts to swim to get the sponsorship to go do the English Channel from New York to Jersey.
Oh my
at
gosh.
night, at
Okay.
night. And like, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it,
Okay.
but
I'll have to
basically
watch
she
this.
did it at night, and it was quite something, and it made you really think about like the live water. Like, there's really
Yeah.
things out there, and
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, it's not our it's not where we spend most of our time. I mean, we're
no,
land mammals, so
no, no, not at all. So as a kid, my dad had a boat, and we used to keep it up in Boston, right in Boston Harbor. And I know I would jump off the boat and go swimming and not even think of what was below me. And now that I'm an adult and knowing that we were in Boston or we'd be out towards like Martha's Vineyard where there's great whites in the summer,
right.
like we were just oblivious, like just kids just having fun and we didn't even pay attention. And now I'm like, oh,
Right. And it's not something that happens all the time, but it is, it's especially when you're naive as a kid, you don't think about it. But now it's funny because I remember going into the room, we were staying at an Airbnb together with the other couple, and I go in the room and I'm like, so I just wanted to be honest with you. They sent a message saying there was a shark. She's like, no, no, my answer is no, you're not swimming. So I have a baby inside of me. So yeah, I mean, understandable.
yes.
And yeah, it's just funny because on the other side of the wall, he was having the exact same conversation. Um, but
Goodness.
but yeah, open water swimming is, and we have so New Orleans it has the river to the south of us, Mississippi, and then to the north of us is the Lake Pontchartrain, and there as like erosion has happened, like more sharks have made nests into Lake Pontchartrain. So there's been a few more shark sightings, and there's like some gators that have kind of built some nests like along like the South Shore, and so there is some marine life in there, but it's fairly safe to swim in, but. It gets pretty polluted. So that's kind of like another reason not to swim in the open water.
Yeah.
Any other open water here is full of alligators, so definitely not swimming in those. But
No,
those
thank
aren't those aren't very fun now. Yeah.
you. No, thank you. So back to running, right? So you've
Mhm.
taken your whole journey to be like, oh, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna do a little bit. You do some in San Diego, then you do 5K, 10K half, and your full marathon in Chicago, right after you just told your wife, I don't ever want to do this again.
Never again. Yep.
Do you have like a definitive memory of a moment during Chicago where you were like, or maybe it was after the race? Because a lot of people, it's like after their first marathon that they're like, oh, I could totally do this again.
hmm
Do you have like a concrete memory of that race that like you could say defined the moment for you to be like, yeah, I want to keep doing this?
Yeah, I think so. When I signed up for it, I had a lot of doubt, and then I started training, and I felt really good. And I had started running with the crew that I run with now, the 504th, and just running with. At that time, we were really small. There was only like maybe 15 or 20 of us. And now we have like 100 people. But at that point, there was just like a lot of like-minded people that were um, had done like a few of us had done marathons. Like not we really hadn't taken that jump as a crew into marathoning yet. So like a few had. We have this girl Lucy that she would be worth talking to. She's just an amazing human being. But she's done a lot of ultra marathoning, and this guy Jean as well did like Badwater, and he does like 200 300-mile races and the crazy stuff. So we have those people, and then we have people that have only ever done like 10Ks and half marathons. So we're kind of in between. And I remember leading up to that, just getting a lot of confidence from those people, and I'm like, I can finish this race. Like I know I can get through the race. I don't know how well I will do, but I had the confidence that at least I can get to the finish line. And when I got to the final, I remember when I got to the final 10K of that first marathon, I was like, I'm gonna finish this race. Like this is crazy. And I was running a great, like I had no time expectation. It was just run and finish the 26 miles. So no goal. Everyone was like, oh, if you go under 4, that'd be a good race. So when I got to the final 10K, I was like, you start to turn back into the city, and like you've run it, so
Yeah.
you get that energy. You could start to see the buildings again, and it was just I started just like start smiling. I'm like, I'm doing this. Like this is cool. And then when you get to that final turn over the bridge and you take that left, and it's like the red carpet going back into Grant Park, it's like you almost like tear up because it's a huge accomplishment. And that was like that moment. Those last 6 miles were just I just had fun with it, and I was like I can't believe I'm actually running a marathon, let alone having fun at this point. And I think that was a part where I was like, oh, this is done right, and like with the right mindset, you can really do anything. And I don't know, it was just such a cool moment, and especially being in Chicago, it's like just such an awesome city, and um, yeah, it just felt good. Like when you have fun doing something really hard, I just felt like it made sense and it clicked with me. But yeah, that last 10K was a lot of fun, and that's kind of what set me on my path of like continuing the marathon and like sign up for bigger events. And um, but yeah, I don't know. It's such a cool thing. And then even this past one, because this is the third time I've run it, I still had like that same energy, the same goosebumps, like running through. And yeah, as I'm getting like faster too, there's like different milestones to hit, but still just being able to do 26 miles to me is amazing. Like for people to run any distance, I think, because running is really hard. So I tell my kids all the time, like a mile and a half race, 2 mile race, like running is hard. I mean, if you can finish that, it's awesome. Like you should be proud of yourself. And that's as I've gotten better at running in bigger mileage, it just, I don't know, it feels good to be able to do these things still and have fun doing it and not, labor through the process. But
And it
there's some
sounds like
grinds, but
you always stay aligned with, and I'm sure there's days that it's a struggle or seasons of life that it's a struggle, but you stay aligned with the importance that it's meant to be fun. Like, and not get too, like it sounds like you set goals, but you don't allow them to take over or define everything you do with running. That's what it sounds
yeah.
like.
And it's funny, I think a big part of that, and this is like no offense to the social media world, but I find I find myself like in my own world with
Mhm.
running, where I do it because I like to do it and I'm not doing it for someone, or um and there's nothing wrong with that part of
Yeah, but you're
running.
not doing
Or
it for likes or
yeah,
comments or anything. You're
right.
just doing it for you.
For me, and I just really enjoy running. It's not, it's not something like I still use Strava and stuff, but it's not something where I just see a lot of runners and a lot of people in my world, direct world, that get so bogged down in training details and pace and this and that and zones and VO2 max and all these things. For me, that it takes so much fun out of it for me to even focus on those things. And I don't really even look at that. I'm like, I set my schedule. I like at this point, I really only run 3 days a week. Except when I'm with the kids, like there's more days there, but those are like pretty minor miles. But three like key runs a week for me now, where some people are running 5 or 6 days a week and they have these like really stressful training plans. And I like melt under that. I just can't do it. But if I set myself, I'm like, all right, these are your 3 runs this week. I enjoy them. And when I was really pushing myself 5, 6 days a week, I just wasn't having fun with it. And I think that was like a big part for me where I learned who I was with running. It was 3 days a week is great for me. And then I still have time for tennis or whatever else is going on. And I don't feel like so bogged down by all the details. It's also something funny because it drives people crazy. I have people that we run with that's like, well, what zone do you run in? What's this and this? And I'm like, I don't really do all that. It drives them absolutely crazy that I don't track any of that. But it's just not something that's important to me, and it probably never will be. But and it's not that I don't know about those things or understand that they could probably help me with fitness, but it's just something
It's
I don't know. I don't
probably
find
a good thing that you
it
don't
is.
allow those numerical measurements to distract you.
Yeah,
Just
it
keep
just
you doing well.
it doesn't bring me joy, right? The
Yep.
Marie Kondo. It doesn't bring me any joy. So I've cut it out of my life.
It
I
was
just
like
run.
it was like when you asked me in Chicago, you were like, "Oh, what kind of sneakers are those?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
They're," and I, partner with Brooks, and I'm like, "Oh, they're just comfortable." And you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, are they carbon plated?" I go, I don't know. They're squishy. They feel
Well,
good."
you were the ambassador. I was trying to learn more about the product.
Yeah, and I'm just like, "Oh, they're just squishy and they feel
Yeah.
good. I like them."
See, and that's what's important. It's like, if it feels good, just that's what's important. I think like being happy, and I think I see it with my kids a lot. For cross country, they compare themselves so much to like I had a lot of new runners this year, and they're like, well, so and so ran this fast, and I'm like, well, you've been running for 2 months, and you've taken this many minutes off of your PR, and you need to focus on who you were last week to this week, regardless of what everyone else around you does, because
Yeah.
that's gonna be the true metric of you being a better athlete and being a better version of yourself versus she who's been running for 5 years is going to be faster than you. That's you've been running for 2 months. You're different people. But and I think teaching them being not being so peer judgmental focused because they look at that. They look at the likes and all that stuff and they compare themselves in a negative way sometimes. And it's like, but you're doing great things. You're doing amazing things. Like keep doing what you're doing. Like that's what's important. Like that's what's going to bring you true joy when you can like measure yourself against yourself and get better versus someone else. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. It just never made sense to me to do that. And maybe it's because I just don't live in that world, but it's something I feel like has been fun to work with the kids is not, or trying to teach them the not comparison, like you be better because you want to be better, not because you're trying to do it at someone or against someone.
Just doing it
But
against yourself. Now, tell the listeners, we're talking about kids, but I realized I didn't actually say what you do. So why
okay,
don't you share with us who the kids are? Because I know you don't have many kids.
many kids, right? No,
Yes.
so this is my 5th year as a middle school cross country and track coach for a school in New Orleans, St. George's Episcopal, and yeah, it's been great. This is my first year where I actually had a big enough roster to race. So you need 5 kids to measure as a team in cross country, and most years I have like 2 kids or 3 kids, so we never can even compete as a team. And we generally never have the numbers to really compete with some of these bigger schools, but this was the first year where I was able to compete as a team with a boys team and a girls team. So that was really cool. So we're building a really cool program at St. George's. My first year, we only had like 7 kids or 6 kids. And then now this year I had 22 sign up. So it's a big, yeah, so it's been really cool.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
I love it. I never saw myself as a coach, but it's been probably something I don't want to not do now. So it's
Well,
been
you
really
can
fun.
just hear, like, as you explain how you talk to your runners and not comparing themselves to other people, you clearly were meant to be a coach, is basically
Well, I
what
appreciate that.
you're
Yeah, it's
clearly.
funny. I never thought I would be, and now I really can't see myself not doing it. But it's been awesome, and I think like I said, I try not to get bogged down in the details and the nuances of running, and I think that helps, especially at the middle school level, because they don't care about that. But I think it helps me to like get on their level, and I think I pair well with like that vibe where they're just trying to run and have fun um, and just enjoy the sport and like get that out of it. But um, can you hear my son in the background?
No, 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 no. No.
He's knocking on the door.
Oh,
Um, it's his bed and bath time. Um, but yeah, it's been great. I mean, I really get. It was funny, kind of merging those two questions. That Chicago, that final 10K of my first marathon, like how that made me feel. Um, I honestly get even more of a rush watching these kids get PRs and like come across finish lines. Like I had a kid this year that his goal was to be able to run a 2 mile race without stopping, and he did it, and he was just so excited. Watching, we had so many PRs this year, and um, I get like more choked up watching them do these things than I do sometimes with my own races because it's just so cool. It's like so fulfilling, and anyone that has been a coach or been around, like you have kids and watching them succeed in their own right, it's really neat. It's really like cool to see. So when I get to grind with them every week and run miles with them and push them, and it's like they're trying to give up during a run, and it's like no, like a few more blocks, we're gonna get in, and then it shows up in the race. It almost feels better than me running any race and getting any sort of accolade. It just feels, I don't know, it's really cool to see. It has been fun. It definitely, I do feel like it's meant to be sometimes, but it's a
yes.
cool thing.
It sounds like it was meant to be you coaching. You should probably be a run coach for people too, to be quite
Yeah,
frank.
I know. I should have all these kids at my disposal. I should start training them up. The high school ranks.
You should. So let me ask. So I'm going to go right to one of my favorite questions because I know it's your little one's bedtime too. So I don't want to keep you too long.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
I want to ask you one of my favorite questions that I love to ask everybody, and you can share whatever you're comfortable in sharing. But as far as running, either something that's happened to you or something's happened to someone else while you've been out on a run, What is the craziest thing that you've ever seen or had experienced as a runner?
Ooh, that's a good question. I alluded to alligators earlier. We were running, so we're actually doing this race. We're gonna do like a test trial. We're calling it Lap the Lake. So we're gonna run. It's a 150-mile relay. It's around Lake Pontchartrain, with 5 people. I unfortunately have been trying to put the thing together for 2 years and now can't run it because of my ankle, but I will be helping with the team that I put together. But we were scouting out some of the routes, and me and a few guys were running through the Spillway, which is a area to the west of New Orleans that they open up these locks and let all the floodwaters go in when the hurricanes push in, so the cities won't flood. Anyway, a lot of wildlife lives down there, and we were running through early one morning, kind of testing out one of the roads for the route, and we saw like a ton of alligators right there with us, like kind of scattering about. So that was pretty gnarly and scary. And thinking about running that at night would be pretty scary.
Yeah.
The Fortunately, we live in a fairly dangerous city, but I haven't seen any gunfire, so that's one thing I like to. I feel pretty good about that. Of all the miles I've run in New Orleans, but yeah, I'd say gators are probably one of the craziest things, especially when you see them up close, and it's pretty freaky.
Yeah. No,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, I'd
No,
probably say that's the craziest thing. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, what's the
yeah.
craziest thing you've seen?
Me?
Yeah.
I've had more stuff happen that I've experienced or struggled with versus seeing
Hmm.
necessarily. Mine usually tie into the bathroom,
Yep.
having to get creative when it
Yeah.
comes to going to the bathroom while you're out and about. Actually, okay, here's the story. So I was running with a friend a couple months ago, and she had her dog with us, and her dog went number two. And so we're in like woods. Like I don't live any city environment. So I'm thinking, let's just drop and go. And she
Hmm.
takes out the little poopy bag and she's like, oh, I got to clean up the poop. And, but she doesn't have, no, that's what it was. She went to get the poop bag, didn't have a poop bag. And then she's like, I have to like move it. And I'm like, no, you don't have to move it. Like there's leaves, there's dirt. It's fine. It's not on
Right.
a road. It's going to fertilize nature right now. It's fine. And she was like, no, 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 no. I have to move it. I have to move it. Long story short, somehow, some way, she ended up getting the turd on her hand.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
we're on the side of the road, and she's like, if she like gets it on her hand, and then I'm like, do you want me to spit on your hand to try to get it off your hand? Like, how are we
This
gonna
is
do this? Like,
this
and
is
she's
spiraling out of
nearly,
control.
it was just the most ridiculous scene over not allowing her dog's turd just to like chill and be. It wasn't in
Yeah, you're
anybody's
allowed one a year,
yard.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's yard. It wasn't going to affect anybody.
Right,
If
right.
anything, it was just going to help the mulch and like the dirt and the ground. And I don't know.
Yeah,
That was
unfortunate.
probably,
I'm fortunate. I've never had any bathroom mishaps, but New Orleans is if you've never been down here, the streets are absolutely horrible and um, third world country like in a lot of areas, but a lot of potholes, a lot of broken concrete and loose bricks. And I I was telling my wife this story not that long ago, but when we used to live uptown, I was running and probably 3 blocks from the house, and I usually would launch like up this one street and then like go wherever. I'm usually kind of like a wanderer when I run. I usually don't run like the same route, so I just kind of wander. But I usually will take like one path and then break off and go wherever. But run in, get like 3 blocks from the house, feeling good. It's like a nice morning, and I hit some sort of break in the concrete in the road, and I just go down, skin my knees up, skin my hands up, and like covered in rocks and whatever. So I get up, and it's early, so I'm looking around and I don't see anyone, and I'm like dusting myself off and checking everything, and then I look to the right, and there's this old lady sitting on her porch and just laughing so hard, and I'm like, I take my headphones out, I'm like, did you see that? And she's like, oh, I saw that. I'm like, yeah. And she's just laughing at me. And I was like, all right. And then I just like put my head down and she's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah. And she's laughing, laughing. I've fallen, I mean, it's pretty common to fall down here, but that was a pretty good one. It probably definitely made her day.
oh my
Watching me eat it on the
God.
concrete.
Now, you mentioned you run with a group. Is it an organized group somewhere that people, if they're in the New Orleans area, could find you guys? How do you tell us about the group?
Yeah, so it's called the 504th, 504th. You can find us on Instagram. We have we just hit we're about to hit our 7 year anniversary in March. And can you hear him now?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear it now.
I
He's
want
like,
my
"Where's
daddy.
daddy right now?"
Uh, but yeah, so we're about to hit our seventh year anniversary. And oh, just for listeners, my wife is here. I'm not blocking you out of the room
Yes.
like a maniac.
She
Uh, I just usually do bedtime, so. But no, so the 504th, THE 504TH on Instagram. We started about 7 years ago. We're a run crew, part of like a bigger movement called Bridge the Gap. There's a lot of running crews like across the states, and actually the one we met at was part of the BTG movement. But it's about like bridging the gap between you and your community through moving your body. So a lot of them are run crews and really cool people. And we started it started with 5 people just wanting to get together on a Tuesday night to run, and it's evolved into still running every Tuesday night. We run Mardi Gras on a Tuesday every year, and we run every single Mardi Gras. We're running on New Year's Eve this year. We've never missed a run in 7 years, whether it's through a hurricane or whatnot. We kind of had to modify a little bit during COVID times, but we were still able to like keep it going. And but yeah, now we're up to like, I mean, on average, we'll probably get 60 to 80 people in a run, which is crazy. I almost feel like we need a permit at this point to run. But it's cool. We usually run like 3 to 4 miles, and we stop. We have like little stops. Recently, our one of our captains, Lindsay, did like a cemetery run for Halloween. So we hit like a bunch of cemeteries, and we run all parts of the city. We don't just have like one route. So we'll pick different neighborhoods or like different launch points, and really cool. Yeah. So if anybody's ever in the New Orleans area, come see us run every Tuesday night. We also do like long runs on the weekends, and we do track runs on Thursdays. But yeah, it's really cool, and it's like all speeds. I mean, we have people that like run walk all the way to like our guys Scott and Jonathan are running 250 marathons. So Lucy does 300-mile solo races. Like we have like crazy span of people. Like so, it's really cool, and all different cultures. And we have a girl who's like kind of stopped running with us because she's like a semi-professional wrestler now. So it's pretty neat. We just have like all these really cool people in our crew, and um, yeah, super uplifting and fun. So it's been
Awesome.
cool. And I'm one of the co-captains of it. But so you can find me on there. You'll see my picture every now and then. It's about as social media as I get. Living in the darkness.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So again, recap, where can we find you? And where can we support you and meeting up with your crew if we're in the area down there?
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, if anybody's ever here, the 504th. I work for a brewery called Urban South Brewery. I'm the director of operations, so I oversee all the liquid production. And so if you ever see our beer, we distribute along the Gulf Coast and a few other states. But we make some NA products. We make beer. We do some THC products, which has just become recreational legal in a lot of states. And so yeah, you'll see me on their social media quite a bit. I think it's Urban South Beer on Instagram. Yeah, the 504th on Instagram, and then yeah, and you'll find me coaching and running the streets of New Orleans. But yeah, I can send you some links so you can add. But yeah, if
Yes,
anyone's
we'll
ever
put them in
down,
the show notes. We'll make sure they're in the
yep,
show notes. And thank you, Alex, for hanging
yeah, I
out with
appreciate
us
your time.
tonight.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for hopping on. And we'll let you go so you can start bedtime for the little one.
yeah, I'm gonna go put them down. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
We're good. You did it. Yay.